Hi! Let me move this preview over because it's going to distract me. All right, there we go. Hopefully it won't pop right in front of me when I'm recording this. I just watched a Netflix documentary. It's one of those that aren't 5 or 6 episodes at a stretch. Ugh. It was called Hell Camp Teen Nightmare. Today's Labor Day. I really wanted to watch a movie, but apparently Netflix is a site for a lot of documentaries. Not many movies that I really like to see are on Netflix. However, I am really happy to be able to watch My Name is Dolomite, Dolomite is My Name with Eddie Murphy. I always liked that one, and as soon as I got a subscription to Netflix, I was happy to be able to see that again. But okay, moving on. I started watching. Let me tell you what the documentary is about. It starts about 1980, 81, early 80s. Someone named Stephen, I can't remember his last, Cardasano. I think I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Stephen Cardasano started this idea of camps for wayward kids, let's just say, to discipline them. It's basically like military camp for kids to get them to shape up. And apparently they still exist. I know Paris Hilton has been vocal about her experiences in one of those camps. And it got me thinking, comparing it with my own childhood, I'm definitely not the sort of person that would have been a candidate to be thought of to go into one of those camps. And I thought of how obedient, how respectful, how understanding I am of other people. And I have never done drugs. I've never done alcohol, smoked, done anything that you would even think of being wayward. So what were the factors in my life that prevented me or disencouraged me from going into a personality type like this? I was never a rebellious teenager. I just wasn't. And sometimes, especially, I think growing up in high school, I'm going to say a lot of ahs. I'm sorry. It's just the way I am. Otherwise, I'd come across as stiff, and I really want this video and these videos I put on this channel to be free. I should really free up my body and just feel comfortable and relaxed. So I listed a few factors in my early youth that probably contributed to it. And as controversial as it may sound, one of those is what I think of as a high IQ and a high EQ. My mom said that I have both. The first one I listed was accuracy and grammar. First, let me tell you about a brief history of my childhood. My earliest memories were living with my mom. I won't go into details about where we were, but I was living with my mom. My dad wasn't in the picture. My mom arranged her work schedule or just didn't work for a while. During those early formative years, there could be other reasons for it, but during those early formative years, and spent a lot of time with me. And then we settled in a central part of the state, and I lived in an apartment complex. I went to school. My mom didn't have a lot of money. She didn't have a car. Um, we had an apartment. We lived in an apartment complex, which is nice, well furnished. Like we had nice stuff. Um, I remember having a lot of toys as a child. Sometimes garage sale toys. Sometimes a lot of times, well, typically garage sale clothing, toys. Um, hmm, can't think of anything else. Basically, clothing and toys, garage sale. But my mom did let me buy some toys of my own, particularly Star Wars action figures and Transformers and so forth. And now those were real sources of joy. And I didn't really know any better until I went to school with other kids. See, that's a danger when you're exposed to what other kids have, then you start thinking, well, you don't have as much as they do, and that set me off. That added a little conflict within my personality, within my mind. But all right, before that, let me tell you. Before that point, I want to mention the aspects that were in my upbringing as a toddler and up through age 7 or 8. There was an accuracy in grammar I put. Let me just list them all before I go into depth. Accuracy in grammar, not being told I couldn't do something, smart mother, an emotionally kind and compassionate mother, understanding mother, economic restraint, which I mentioned before, connection with mom. In other words, we're bonding back and forth. And whenever we wanted to, either one of us could bond with the other person, talk and chat. At an equal level. She never talked down to me. My passion and interest in TV and film, not necessarily as a career, but just I enjoyed it, and I just kept going with it, and nobody told me, like that earlier thing, not being told I can't, nobody told me that I couldn't enjoy film nor TV. And I listed some of my favorites: Star Trek, Twilight Zone, Bewitched, and I Dream of Jeannie. The Muppet Show I enjoyed. I enjoyed a lot of fantasy. Growing up around age 10, Steven Spielberg and Jim Henson were my favorites. George Lucas. My first movie that I recalled seeing in a movie theater was Return of the Jedi. But before that, I enjoyed watching movies on TV. I enjoyed Mary Poppins, and this is before I even moved into the apartment complex. Mary Poppins and The Sound of Music and Superman. I'm not sure if I had seen both Superman movies by the time I had been 10, but I remember Superman being a big hero of mine. When I say Superman, I don't mean the comic books, really. I meant the two Christopher Reeve Superman movies, two at that point. And I was an only child. That was another factor. So I did not have to compete with another sibling for attention. And of course, a sense of mutual trust between myself and my mom. So I want to go back to that first one, accuracy in grammar. It's just hard to explain, or whether, how much, blah, 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 blah. Accuracy in grammar, I saw it as important and a matter of seeming adult and more mature to be able to speak and communicate well. There was a power to communication, and I felt it was very important to communicate well. I suppose because I wanted to communicate with the people around me well and communicate all about me. Sorry, yawning. And I just felt by expressing ideas well, I could have more power. Power isn't necessarily the right word. There's some sense of authority. It's like somebody draws and draws skillfully. There's a difference between chalk drawings with scribbles and an artistic rendering of something. That's like architecturally or whatever. That's the difference between, in my mind, speaking poorly and speaking well. My mom prided education. She had books, now that comes to me, she had books around about reading. A little bit later, I remember my dad sending me books to read, oodles of books. For example, I've joked before, like Italian architecture and the money system and something or other. And occasionally there would be like a Dennis the Menace book or something. And I'd go toward the Dennis the Menace book. But I mean, to a kid, I was more fascinated by Dennis the Menace. But there was a recognition of how important reading was. And so my mom would read to me at night. I don't remember a time. I don't remember if it's that time period before moving into the apartment complex or whether it began with the apartment complex or even later when we moved to central part of the state in another area. That maybe that's when she started reading to me. But I remember early on her reading to me as I would drift off to sleep, and I would read on my own. Of course, not being told I can't. I simply felt free enough and uninhibited enough to follow what I truly desired, and I was self-aware. I was self-aware enough to be in contact or be aware of what I'm interested in, and I just went with it. I just went with whatever I was interested in. I remember drawing more often. I was reading and drawing primarily, and my mom made sure that I had tools and toys and things to encourage it. She would get me. I would always have paper available. I'd have pens and pencils. She got me those books, How to Draw. I hope I still have them. How to Draw Comic Book Superheroes, and there was another one, How to Draw Woody Woodpecker. These were, large, thin books, colorful covers, and you'd go through it, and they were instruction guides on how to draw. And I would draw and draw and draw, and then I remember around, I would have been age 9 when I was interested in Transformers. I would draw the Transformers. I began collecting the action cards, which were trading cards. You'd buy like I think 9 or something in a pack, maybe 5 cards in a pack, and there'd be a little sticker enclosed with it. But they were scenes from the TV show, and by that point I had already seen the TV show, so I must have been approaching age 10 or had been, just been age 10 at that point. And I would marvel at how they looked, how the cards looked, meaning, they were snapshots of the or scenes taken from the Transformers TV show, the cartoon TV show, and just looking at how the artwork was, and the Transformers boxes had an piece of artwork of the character in action in some dramatic pose, and I marveled at how well the artist could be able to draw those poses. And I remember asking my mom, how did they draw these so well? And she let me do that. And she by buying those Transformers boxes, I think on some level she was also, she was encouraging me in what I enjoyed, but she was also encouraging me to look at the toys. And I would sit and I never really played war with the toys. I just looked at them as works of art. I would turn them over in my hand. I would like bond with them. I would look at the little features on them and so forth. Um, so, of course, smart mom. She went to Cornell and Yale and MIT. She was very smart, but she didn't she didn't brag about how smart she was. She just was a good guide and good parent, and kept in tune with what she felt was right, and brought me up that way. Of course, connection with my mom, meaning it was mutual trust, which is another facet. Later on, I listed here. I could go up, either one of us could go to the other and talk about what was on our mind. And TV and film, applying the philosophy to my own life. I had mentioned before Star Trek, Bewitched, Twilight Zone, I Dream of Jeannie. Later on, basically whatever you had seen on Nick at Night was what I was growing up with. Later on, as a teenager, I watched the Dick Van Dyke Show, and I don't think that the philosophy and the ethics in the show changed me in any way. They just reinforced what I already knew. For that, I suppose you'd have to go back to Superman. I think each one of us innately, unless there's some real deviant screw up in the brain, I think each one of us feels an innate sense of, I don't want to say what's right and wrong because that could be subjective, but feels an innate sense of compassion. We want the other person to be happy. We feel hurt when we hurt another person's feelings, stuff like that. So, and of course, being smart and being capable and optimistic and wanting things to turn out well in the end and being proud of what you've achieved, stuff like that. I grew up with that, and the TV shows that I watched encouraged that. And I'm going to take a guess that my mom would probably step in if she were she alive. See, there's the grammar again. Were she alive, she would say perhaps that she moved me, encouraged me to watch those shows, or encouraged these things to play with, or nudged me towards those things. I don't know if she really nudged me. I think I just was encouraged. I was, first of all, in terms of Transformers, I was playing with kids that were decent kids, the boys. I didn't really. I was a little boy. Boys don't play with girls really, but they were decent people, and one of them I still think of fondly as a close friend who understands me. We understand each other, and that's a dear relationship. So I think I was already in a group of kids that had good wishes and like had a sense of respect for other people. So I think she was pleased with that. I would guess she would be pleased with that. And of course, I was an only child. There's not much else to say about it. I didn't have to share anything with anybody else. I felt it was directly from my mom to me. I didn't have to share attention. I didn't have to strive for her attention or fight with somebody else for her attention. So that's it. I don't want to go any further with this video. I just had those thoughts and I wanted to express them. Why did I want to express them so much? Why did I turn on this video? It's because, again, watching that Hell Camp Teen Nightmare, these were kids that were smoking, who were rebellious, And I don't see not being rebellious to be a sign of being weak or like blindly obedient. That's just the way I am. So hopefully, those of you watching, you directly, hopefully you've had a good life, and I just wanted to give my sense of how I grew up well, with good ethics and so forth. You don't have to be deeply religious, or I wasn't even really religious growing up. You don't have to be fundamentalist, so forth, certain beliefs, or conservative, or who knows what. I also wanted to mention, before I leave, that I discovered I have enough subscribers to be able to do a live stream, which is something I'd wanted to do since starting this channel a few years ago. But I haven't really understood yet, or figured out yet, what I would talk about, rather than just receiving questions from you and answering them. So maybe we'll be able to work out something. I'll be able to set up something, because I would like to be more active on YouTube. YouTube is great for spreading. Let me see. Great for me, what I want to do, which was spreading my ideas far and wide. I've always wanted to be in entertainment, to share my ideas, to entertain people. And YouTube seems to be my only option at the moment, although I'm working on other things. Right now I'm still unemployed. Hopefully I'll be getting a job and unemployment insurance soon, one or the other, or hopefully a job. That's another thing, strong work ethic. I've never felt lazy. The second thing I wrote down was ambition, and I decided to cross that off from my list because it would sound too, not precocious was good. It maybe precocious is a better word than ambitious. Precocious, but I wasn't being precocious just to seem snotty or smart aleck. I just naturally wanted to go as far as I could, and I wanted adventure, and I wanted to climb the highest mountain and so forth. That's basically what the best way of expressing it, I think. Anyway, going back to the unemployment thing, I want to be employed. I want to not only be employed, but I want to finally be able to be a big star in the world. Not only on stage, but I mean be a star in the world. So anyway, yeah, you might be able to see this flying around inside the fly. All right, that's gonna do it for now. I'm still pondering about doing at least one video about alien abductions and some of the truth hidden beneath alien abductions that doesn't get much coverage. Getting to the truth, getting to the bottom of things, at least as sort of a quasi-journalist. I've seen some videos. I want to give an unpaid shout out to Noor Jasmine, Noor Jasmine, Jasmine. I enjoy her videos, and I like the way she just simply talks in front of a camera about these interesting, mysterious, weird cases. Cases of cults and conspiracies and so forth, right up my alley. So I wanted to give a shout out to her, but primarily I wanted to mention her and Boogie 2988. I know Boogie has gone through a lot of stuff, and there's such thing as a lol cow and so forth. But what I enjoyed was him speaking frankly and openly and honestly to the camera. I mean, people nicknamed him the Fred Rogers of the internet. And that's something like what I would like to be. I want to share how I grew up. I want to share my insights and philosophy and so forth. So, and just talk, and that's part of entertainment. Same thing with Nora Jasmine. She's entertaining people. So, anyway, I don't want to talk too long. The abduction story that I wanted to talk about was to first cover Betty and Barney Hill, and then go into Travis Walton. And there was another one in there that seemed to be a connection there. But I found some interesting connections and some alternative explanations for those cases. So I guess I'll say goodbye for now. Hope you do well this Labor Day and so on. Bye.